the OSPW. This stands for oversized pulley wheel. And as you can see, it's a big wheel on your derailleur cage. But how is this supposed to make your bike faster? In the first half of this video, I'm going to be testing oversized pulley wheels as a whole. Doesn't matter about brand to brand, just do they work, do they feel better, do they make your bike more efficient? And the second half of the video, I'm going to be testing the NovaRide system specifically, because that's what I've got on this bike. So if you want to skip to those chapters below, hit it. So here's how it's supposed to work. To begin with, the increased size of the cogs here, of the pulley wheels, that is supposed to reduce the amount of articulation in the chain. So the chain quite literally has to bend less to get around this pivot here. It's kind of like how time trialists at the moment go for a bigger cog on the front. So that means they can be on a bigger cog on the back. There's just less articulation in the chain. The second way that the oversized pulley wheel reduces friction in the drive chain is in the bearings itself. The bearings have ceramic balls in them, and this is supposed to reduce friction within the bearing itself, meaning you have to pump less energy into turning these wheels, meaning you can go a little bit faster. More energy goes to the back wheel. When you think about reducing the articulation, it doesn't sound like much to begin with, but when you consider that most chains will probably have 100 plus links on there, and you're doing 100 RPM, that's 100,000 links turning every single minute. And if you can just reduce each one of them by a little bit, that's the theory on how this saves energy and puts more efficiency into the drive chain. Right, so that's how they're supposed to work. Does an oversized pulley wheel feel any different on the bike? Well, I've just had my first big spin up here, just come up Newlands Corner in the UK. And to be honest, I'm not sure if this is a light bit of placebo, but to me, it feels very mildly silkier. Like if the old Durate is like a 9 out of 10 in terms of silkiness, this would be like a 9.5 out of 10. Like I said, it could be placebo, or it could actually be a little bit silkier. I don't know, but it feels like it. So after a lot more riding, I would say, yeah, it kind of feels very, very, very marginally silkier, but I am totally convinced that this is a placebo effect as the margins are so small. When it comes to shifting performance, honestly, it feels exactly the same as the original derailleur cage. I could not perceive any difference in shifting performance. It was no crisper, no sharper, no worse on the other hand either. If you want more details on the adjustments and setup I had to do, then that's going to be on the NovaRide review section of this video. Let's move on to performance. Does this make your bike perform better? Maybe. Maybe if the bearings are spinning at like 1,000 RPM, then the ceramic bearings might reduce friction within the system. But realistically, at the cycle speeds that the bearings are going when you're pedaling along, probably not. If it is, it's going to be very, very marginal reduction in the bearing friction from those ceramic bearings. Honestly, when I put pressure on the original pulley cage and I started moving and sliding it, it felt no difference to the ceramic bearings here. Yeah, they look cool and they spin fast when there's no load and no weight on them, but underneath load and underneath tension, I cannot tell any difference between the bearing. Just because it spins a lot more with no load on there doesn't make it faster. Although it is a very good marketing tactic. Visually, it's very cool to see, and actually, it's very satisfying to spin them when you have the chain off. When it comes to the efficiency of the chain, there's a lot better gains that you can make out there. Like, I have a wax chain, and that's probably one of the best things you can do for drive chain efficiency. And then adding an oversized pulley wheel on top of that, once again, the reduced articulation is going to be so marginal. It's probably immeasurable, maybe, especially with a waxed chain. If you run a normal wet lubricant, then you might be getting that 2 watt efficiency increase that most of these oversized pulley wheels claim you're going to get. If I was going to buy another one of these, I would probably only buy it for my time trial bike, as there you do want those marginal gains, and I would get one of the ones with the fairings, such as from Cycling Ceramic or Ceramic Speed. That way, just the increased surface area at the back of the bike will just be reduced slightly as you'll reduce the drag, as that system is now covered. But to be honest, I'd only do that if I just had 700 quid lying around, which I definitely do not. If you look at my 21 best time trial upgrades video, the oversized pulley wheel definitely comes at the latter end of the video because it's such a marginal gain. When it comes to how the oversized pulley wheel looks on your bike, this is very divisive. I put out a poll on Instagram and it kind of came back 50-50. Some people loved it, some people, well, did not like it at all. For me personally, I really like the way that it looks, and I think it fits the bike very well. In my eyes, it's kind of like a piece of jewelry around someone's neck or around someone's wrist, like a bracelet. It just adds something extra, it's a bit more flair, something else to look at on the bike. One thing I like on the looks on this system specifically is when you're at low speeds, these counter rotate the top and bottom wheel, and it just looks kind of cool. You can just see them moving and how they're working. One thing I will say, if you have a more compact group set, so you maybe have a 50 or an even smaller chainring on the front, I think it would look a bit strange, the oversized pulley wheel. I think it looks better with a bigger chainring on the front. This is a 52, and I think anything less than 52, the oversized pulley wheel would be a bit too big on the system. It might look a bit strange. If I could change one thing about this one specifically, is I'd probably have a lighter anodized blue here, just to fit my bike a little bit better. This is a bit dark of a blue on this one. So, I mean, if you know how to re-anodize aluminium, there's lots of videos out there, but could someone help me out with that one, maybe? Well, after looking at those categories, is an oversized pulley wheel worth it? It's gonna depend here. Do you like the way that it looks? If the answer is yes, then I think it is worth it actually. It kind of adds something a bit fresh to your older bike, and it gives it a little bit more character as well. And if you think it looks cool on your bike, go for it. As I said though, that is very divisive. A lot of people don't like the way an oversized pulley wheel looks. If you're buying the oversized pulley wheel for performance, however, I'm gonna have to give it a no for this category. Honestly, the gains are so minimal that it just really does not matter. You'll never be able to feel it. And if you are already running a waxed chain system, then the gains are probably even smaller because the system's already so efficient. As I said earlier, the only place I would consider running this for performance gains is on my time trial bike, and I would have to buy the faired one. Well, that's oversized pulley wheels as an overall category, but what about this one? This one is from NovaRide and it costs £215 in UK money. It has a 17 tooth cog on the bottom and a 14 tooth cog on the top. For a normal 11 speed, it's usually 11 tooth, so quite a bit bigger. Is this system easy to set up and install on your bike? And the answer is yes, it's very easy, really quick to do, and to be honest, there's loads of videos out there that will describe it and show it way better than I ever would, so feel free to check one of them out. You can choose the spring tension, so how much tension is going through the derailleur cage, and you have three options: low, medium and high. At first I put this one on high and it was actually too much tension and it was affecting the shifting, so I ended up on the medium hole and I found that that had the best shifting for this specific group set. After you've installed this thing, do you need to lengthen the chain? And the answer is probably yes. They do recommend between 3 to 5 on their website, but if you use a quick link like I do, then it's probably going to be 2 to 6. I started with 6 links longer, and to be honest, the shifting is a bit slow and a bit dead like that. When it comes to shifting, this is another one of those things that I'm not sure if I'm making it up in my mind. Shifting up into easier gears seems to be the same, but shifting down into a harder gear on the rear cassette, I would say I have to lift off for very marginally longer. I'm talking like fractions of a second here. And well, it's because I had a bit too much slack in it still, so I slowly chopped it down to find the right length, and I only actually ended up 2 links longer than the previous chain that was on here for all of this extra articulation and length that it has to go through. Did I have to do some adjustments after I put this on? The answer is yes. I had to bring out the B limit screw a little bit, so I had a bit more space in between the big cog, so this cog didn't rub against the big cog on the back. And secondly, I just had to do some very minor Di2 adjustments just to get that shifting perfect again. But neither of these are hard jobs. There's tons of videos out there, super easy to do. Let's talk about the performance of this system itself, and we're going to kick that off with weight. So this system, or this oversized pulley wheel, weighs 73 grams, and the original Dura Ace one that came off the bike weighed 45 grams. So we've got a plus 28 gram weight penalty. To be honest, 28 grams Who cares? I'm not a weight weenie, and that's going to make no difference to me or 99% of other people out there. When it comes to the shifting, I did explain it earlier in the video, but I'll say it again, it literally made no difference to the shifting whatsoever. When it comes to the carbon on this piece, it looks a little bit thick, which I would assume adds a little bit of aero drag. It's very far back in the bike system and aero drag makes like no difference back here, but it is a bit thicker, and I assume that's to make it stiff enough so the shifting performance does stay the same from the original derailleur system. The bearings in the NovaRide system here don't have any grease in them, and I find that quite interesting. You can kind of hear it when you spin it. I don't really know why, so if you know why these are greaseless, I would love to know. Put them in the comments below. They are of course sealed, so you can ride through the rain and the wet and it shouldn't be a problem. This is good because if you just bought some cheap ones off AliExpress, I mean, they spin exactly the same, but most of them are an unsealed bearing, and pretty much any bearing unsealed will spin for ages. So having a sealed system just means you can ride it all the time and you shouldn't have a problem. Speaking of durability, I've only had this on my bike for 2 months now, and it has been summer, which has been great, but it has rained a lot in the UK and it's kind of made no difference to how they feel as well. But if you're watching this video 6 months on, a year on, 2 years on, feel free to ask in the comments below if I've had any future problems with them. So how about the looks and the attractiveness of this system? Personally, I actually like this one a little bit more than other brands such as Ceramic Speed. I just think the jockey wheels look a little bit cooler, and it's because you can see that kind of counter rotation going on as you're moving. Just gives them a bit more show, a bit more flair. As I said earlier in the video, I don't like the blue as much on this one. It just doesn't go with my bike as well, so if you know of anyone around Surrey that could anodize these for me to a lighter blue, that would be awesome. I could have gone for black or silver, which would have suited the drive chain system a lot better, but personally I would have got a bit bored of this, whereas I still look at this one because it has colour, so I'm still quite attracted to the colour of it. One thing I will say, compared to the Ceramic Speed one, the system doesn't look as refined. The surface finish is a little bit rough on the jockey wheels. The plates are kind of thick on the carbon here. I assume they've had to do that for stiffness to keep the shifting really good. But yeah, they are kind of chunky from a front-on view. But as a whole, it is a well-made piece of kit here. Of course, the price is a hell of a lot cheaper than a Ceramic Speed system, probably like £300–400 cheaper, which is a massive difference considering you're getting a similar kind of level of engineering. You've got the ceramic bearings and you've got the oversized pulley wheel system, and you're getting that for a lot lower of a price. And I would love to know, do you like them? Do you like the way they look? Do you think they actually improve performance at all? Or are they just a bit of a gimmick? As I said, they're very divisive. Stick around for next week because I'm going to be reviewing if one-piece derailleur hangers are worth the money. I've been Jason, this has been Cycling Unboxed.